Basically, my thesis is to understand the importance of strategic maritime choke points in the Philippines and develop a robust and comprehensive maritime security strategy. As a consequence, I argued that this can be a source of national power for the country. My thesis was guided with 4 research questions. To simply describe it, first, to establish that Sibutu Passage is an important international maritime route. After establishing that it is important, it laid down the current maritime security environment. And from that environment, it looked into the constraints and challenges affecting the security and development of Sibutu. And consequently, the thesis presented strategic options or solutions to address the issues. I used the lens of international relation theories in the process of my research. However, being a trained defense researcher and a defense analyst myself, I could not help to use different analysis tools in understanding my research agenda. So aside from using the lens of the different IR theories, I used the following analytical tools. First, environmental scanning to determine the importance of Sibutu Passage and determine the current security environment. Causal loop analysis to determine the causal relationship of the different constraints and challenges. And finally, to provide structure and possible strategic options or solutions, my thesis used Christian Buger's semiotic framework on maritime security. As a result, the thesis validated that indeed Sibutu Passage is an important secondary maritime route. Eventually, the study concretized the argument that proper control of Sibutu Passage would increase the domain of influence and geopolitical weight of the Philippines as a caretaker of international trade routes that will equally elevate the country's position in the international arena. The thesis also presented that the constraints and challenges to secure and develop the passage are interrelated. With the complication of these issues bestowed on the security of the passage, there could be no direct or single solution that could address its maritime security. However, with Buger's semiotic framework on maritime security, the strategic option presented resulted in a comprehensive and holistic solution on Sibutu's maritime security. This includes modernization or upgrade of security assets and installations, pursue the designation of archipelagic sea lanes to control and provide regulation on both international and domestic maritime transit in the passage, improve and reassess the existing trilateral cooperative agreement, also promote the blue economy to persuade the locals not to engage in illegal activities, also improve maritime environmental enforcement, and finally make the plan inclusive such that the strategy will ensure preservation of the indigenous people cultures that guarantees food security, reduce poverty, and inclusive development. Given a snapshot of what my thesis is all about, my motivation in pursuing this is because of my previous job and responsibility of preventing maritime terrorism and ensuring maritime security in Western Mindanao. I would like to share my experience on how we limit and prevent the occurrence of high seas kidnapping in the area and prevent other maritime threats. In the process, I also pursued this agenda because I realized the potential of Sibutu Passage as an important international maritime route that could potentially increase the domain of influence of the Philippines in the international arena. Basically, that is a brief discussion of my thesis. Some may find my thesis to be too wide in its coverage since the thesis not only covers the defense, military, and security aspect of the issue, but it also provides some findings and analysis on the concept of archipelagic sea lanes and the existing trilateral cooperative agreement and the potential of blue economy in the area. All these standalone issues were included in this thesis based on subsidiary studies that I have also undertaken. In the end, if there is an iota of doubt on the significance of my thesis, I will simply leave a scenario related to my study. What if we close the Sibutu passage to international trade? Or worse, what if the Abu Sayyaf group managed to control the passage? What would you think would be its effect in the international trade? That is basically the essence of my thesis.